Hi, this is Amy Lewis.
Maybe more makeup.
This is Engineers Unplugged. Hi, this is Amy Lewis, and we're back for another awesome episode of Engineers Unplugged. We're here with Mike and Uri, and we're going to be talking about data center automation. So, Uri, take it away.
So there's lots of fun happening today behind those boring black walls of data centers. There are data centers, the operators are really squeezed between the ever-increasing need to offer agility, flexibility, matching of the ever-changing business demands, and at the same time trying to lower the total cost of ownership, which is a very important metric by which they are measured, and allows them to stay competitive with the rest of the market. We believe that one way to get there is to increase the automation of those data centers, and that directly leads us into policies. Policies are an essential component that allows the data center to fully automate across all the different parts of the infrastructure. And that is where Mike is going to chime in.
And if you start looking at the data center automation, and if you think about just the purpose of the existence of IT, you have to ask a question: why does the IT exist? And IT exists to run applications, right? So basically, it's the application owner, so whoever develops or owns or wants to use applications, basically deploys it. And the way things work today, unfortunately, is you really have to decompose it into a lot of elemental parts, and you have to deploy all these elemental parts, and then you have to tie them together with the network, attach them to storage, and all of that is actually pretty painful. And the worst thing is the original intent of what application is trying to consume is forever lost. So whenever you want to update the application, you basically end up with like reverse engineering of your original intent, and it leads to a lot of operational complexities and a lot of inconveniences. So our thesis is, why not take things in the first order principles and basically describe application and its needs onto the infrastructure and various other things that it relies on in a way that basically represents the structure of the app itself. And this way, you can describe a policy that expresses an intent of the application owner and whoever wants to deploy the application and how infrastructure is consumed.
And Mike was hitting on some really important key points over there. The use of starting from the application in mind and then defining some policies is going to help us automate, but at the same time, we really need the infrastructure to understand those policies. Without the infrastructure understanding those policies, we didn't do much. Well, let's take a closer look at what infrastructure means. We all know the infrastructure the way it used to be, with those independent silos with compute and network and storage and labor-intensive configuration of all of those different silos, and then having to deal with the very complicated human-intensive communication between people who are really working on the different silos. That was great, but it doesn't really help us move forward with the real-time automation needs that we all witness as we are trying to make the data centers more efficient, more agile, and so on. So we need to not only talk about policies, we also need to understand how policies are going to be embedded into the infrastructure and how we are making those silos of compute, network, and storage more collaborative. There are, for instance, initiatives that we at Intel are very pleased to see, the network function virtualization, software-defined network, NFV and SDN respectively, and with those initiatives, you start seeing workloads migrating towards software, towards virtualization, and the network is playing an ever-increasing role in a scenario like that, as scale-out applications, many moving parts, really are important for the network to connect them together. And the network is where it goes to Mike.
Right. So. And if you look at network or compute or storage for that matter, the way people interact with it, even in the SDN environments or software controlled environments, is basically can be described as micromanagement. And a lot of people sort of try to build automation systems that mimic the way humans used to perform those operational procedures, right? So they want to deploy a VM, they want to connect the VM to something, they want to install some piece of software on the VM. Rather than that, rather than basically industrializing the micromanagement processes, what we need to think about is how to make those things fluid and remove the sort of like notions of whatever is left of the human middleware from the equation. And there are several components that we need to think about. One is obviously the expression of the intent of the application onto the infrastructure. Another one is the operational requirements that the infrastructure owner imposes onto how the infrastructure is used and how various technology within the infrastructure are being utilized. And the other one that's really important but often forgot is the compliance and governance. It basically introduces rules that that describe what is allowed and what is disallowed at both the data center level from the standpoint of the infrastructure owner, as well as the governance from the standpoint of the application guy who deploys the stuff in the data center.
And an important piece of all of this movement, and now I think it's better to introduce the word policy and what it means, but actually another aspect that we may want to leave you guys with is that between the two companies here, we collaborate in open source organizations and in standard organizations. And we think that the goal is to create something that would allow a broad industry adoption of those concepts of automation, of policy, of infrastructure that is more collaborative, more aware, as the whole infrastructure turns into shared infrastructure where you have multiple applications, multiple threads, multiple tenants that are using this shared infrastructure. The way to allow lower cost of ownership is by what we call a tighter bin packing. Tighter bin packing is really enabled by policies, by infrastructure understanding of that policies and enforcing that policies, creating a closed loop between what the infrastructure does and what the control point is monitoring to allow further deployment at this better utilization and efficiencies.
All right, are you ready? Okay. Now, in the spirit of collaboration, it is automated unicorn time. So let's see your collaborative automated unicorn. Go.
Right.
Yeah. I don't.
It's really going to be a committee effort.
Oh.
That's going to be challenging my artistic talents to the extreme. I think I definitely am very happy that Mike is leading this because you guys don't want to see my creative drawing on the board. We just need to name that sucker.
That's unicorn.
I think they just won the unicorn challenge. Thank you, Uri. Thank you, Mike. We'll see you next time if we're still in the air on Engineers Unplugged.